Hopefully, things that took you 5 days to do before take you 2 hours. Hopefully, the stress that you would have invested into responding to something complicated is far lower than it was before. Hopefully, things that you couldn't quite figure out before because you just didn't know how to pull it all together is like simplified and you're now capable of because you got new capabilities.
Welcome to the Tourism AI podcast, where Josh Houston and I talk about all things at the intersection of artificial intelligence and tourism. And today I am joining you guys all the way from the Northwest Territories, where I just delivered a keynote presentation yesterday on sort of artificial intelligence for the tourism industry. And I came to Josh today, said, "Hey, let's talk about AGI and the path to AGI." And specifically, the reason I wanted to have that conversation was a little bit of reflection based on I've been, delivering presentations all across Canada for the last couple of weeks here, and delivering the same presentation to different audiences and really getting different vibes, let's just say. And so I wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit in context of, are we ready for the technology that's coming? And quite frankly, are we even ready for the technology that's here right now? And so I think that, there's a path that's becoming clear. In my keynote presentation, I talk about the path to AGI. I talk about OpenAI's 5 steps to AGI. I talk about Google's 5 steps to sort of AGI. I talk about Dario Amadei's sort of path to a beautiful future. I forget what his essay was called. So I sort of talk about the fact that there is this path emerging, and there is this sort of consensus that we are going to some even smarter form of artificial intelligence than we have today. And, that's something we need to be aware of. But at the same time, as I travel around and talk to tourism audiences all over the world, all over the place, I'm realizing that the readiness for the technology that exists today is still in its infancy, and people are not ready for today's
Mhm.
technology. Never mind technology that could come as soon as 2 to 5 years from now, which is sort of some of the predictions. So I wanted to open up with that as sort of some context as to our conversation. And so maybe I'll start off with a question to Josh about, do you think about AGI a lot, or in your current role, is that just something that's way in the future and not even something you're even considering?
Yeah, short answer, no, it's not like what we deal with on a day-to-day basis, strictly because we're not the ones doing it. Like AGI is for the most bleeding edge, futurist, cutting edge, like tech startup brainiacs. And the reason I say it like that is because it's something that hasn't been achieved yet. So it's still in the lab. Like they're still like doing the scientific process to theorize that this is possible. No one's past theory, like the theory part of the scientific process. There's claims, there's PR and hype, and you've got the Sam Altmans of the world running around saying yes, 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 this is it. And then you've got Apple publishing papers that's like AI can't even ever do that, like, and they're respected people in this space, like they're and with two contradictions. So when we work with clients, we try to stay away from that because it's the nebulous, it's future, it's something that doesn't exist yet. So we try to ground in like what's here now, and not just like technology wise what's here now, but like where are we in our ability to leverage. And then when we talk with our clients, it's like, where are you? Sometimes we meet with people who don't even have, say, a cloud service for their storing their files and organizing their work, like Google, like Workspace, or like Outlook and Office 365. And so, like, to talk about AGI when we're playing catch up from, where's technology today and what are the capabilities and what are the best ways to go about, scaling business, like, we want to meet you where you're at, and AGI is only where there's like a very small fraction of people who live in the future, and they need to be.
Yeah,
Like, that's a really positive, good thing. We really love that it's exciting to look at from afar and be like, wow. But like the most
yeah,
important thing is where companies are today. And when we focus on that, then we start to deal with like, so what can we do to help you capitalize on what we have now, which is, say, only 10, 15% of the way towards the promise. So even at that, we're seeing so many cool like solutions and results, and like people saving time and like getting rid of tasks they hate that are really like data heavy or spreadsheet heavy, or like computer work in general. Like there's so much opportunity right here. We just try to stay there.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. And I'm gonna maybe pause this conversation a little bit and just say, let's define AGI first, because I don't think we did that. So
Oh yeah.
I just went to ChatGPT and then said, what is define? I said define AGI. So it said AGI, or artificial general intelligence, refers to a type of AI that can understand, learn, and apply knowledge across a broad range of tasks at a level equal to or greater than that of a human. Unlike current AI systems, which are typically narrow in scope and designed for specific functions, AGI would possess the capacity for flexible, adaptive, and autonomous problem solving in diverse fields, even in areas it hasn't been explicitly trained for. Now, I'm going to read this part here because I really liked this in context of exactly what you just said, Josh. It gave a couple bullet points, and then after the bullet points, it had a concluding paragraph. It says, AGI remains largely theoretical and is distinct from ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, which is the AI we see in applications today, designed for specific tasks like image recognition, language processing, or recommendation algorithms. So I'm going to pause there because I think what that speaks to is something that you and I talked about all the time. What you just talked about is narrow application, right? Is the ability to do, let's say, at the very small task level, something like duplicate something, or something like simplify something, or something like process something, or help me sort of visualize a spreadsheet or whatever. And at the end of the day, all of us, and this is what I say to tourism audiences all the time. In fact, it's like how many people in this audience, started a tourism business because they want to work on a spreadsheet, or they want to, they want to manage paper and move paper around. It's like zero people. And
Hmm.
so I think that the promise of today's technology is that it can, with the right approaches and solutions and tools, we can reduce a lot of that, what you like to call, Josh, administrative slog, which quite frankly, nobody likes to do, right? And so to your point, we can think about this future that's sort of quite obscure, but I actually don't think enough people are thinking about the future that exists today, or the reality that exists today, and the tools that can really help us. And so, as I was reflecting on this conversation and reflecting on what you just said here in terms of, the companies that are at the forefront of this revolution, that are sort of thinking ahead, trying to build the next most innovative thing possible, they're doing that, and that's their role to play. But there's so many people like you and I that have a role to play, that's in between those companies and some of the other tools and providers around them, and just the people on the street just trying to run businesses, right? And I the more time I spend doing this, the more time I realize what a gap there is between those two sort of entities, I guess, in the world. And so, maybe why don't you give me kind of your perspective on um, our role, I guess, as the middle people trying to sort of bring this to life for people, and
Hmm.
ways that we can engage people to make it more real for them.
Yeah. So the way that we typically approach folks is just trying to ground this whole like concept. It's so theoretical, and like we were talking before we started recording this morning of like so many of the people that we're talking to as we give these keynotes and workshops and do trainings are giving us feedback like, well, I've already seen AI keynotes, but like no one's telling me how to do stuff. They're like, hey, you can make custom GPTs and these custom GPTs can help you. And then they stop talking, the thing's over, and I have to go like figure it out. And the starting power for someone to go from know nothing about AI or know nothing about customizing their tools to like getting something productive done is like it's not a large gap, but it's a deep gap that scares people. So they won't take the jump, and that's fair. So when we work with people, when we do our workshops, we're actually hopping into the tools with them, getting into small groups, and doing activities that force folks to try. Like dip your toe into this ChatGPT thing. If you've never done it before, like go take a picture of the pantry or the food in your fridge and then load it to ChatGPT in your app and let it create your menu for the next 3 days. Like people, and when the goal of doing that is to help them understand like what this technology can do for them, and bridging the gap of like, okay, well, I look at my pantry and I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with the green beans, garlic, and corn, but it's going to sit there a few more days because I don't have an idea. And AI is like, oh, you could just make this recipe, like, or you could make this dish and that dish, and now you have a plate. Like, it's like starting at the basics of not business, and then we try to take folks, especially because we work a lot with organizations that write grants, like we push towards like let's do something real, like a project that you have one of these projects in your like on your plate right now on your desk, and hearing stories from people to help them go from like, well, no, like you said, no one signs up for this space in tourism and hospitality with the goal of writing grant like proposals, like and applications. No one's doing that. No one's dreaming of, man, I can't wait to submit this RFP. Like,
I can't wait to do more paperwork, right?
right. I can't wait to read the 100-page requirement document and then a 25-page application that's in a portal. Like
Yeah.
no one cares about that, like admin slog. So when we help equip people, we just get in the trenches with them on those tasks and we just walk through like, okay, what does it look like to assess, this opportunity by reading the document with AI so that you don't have to read the 100 pages and finding the areas that you can tie your narrative to. Like like when we get into the trenches with people, we find these are the things they really need help with. And once they understand that one concrete example that they take home with them, that's their like big aha moment. They move closer to like weekly or daily AI use. And that's where really when we encourage folks, we're like, if you just use this tool every day I say for 2 weeks, if you have 10 hours of hanging out with ChatGPT trying to figure out how to do stuff and how it works, you're gonna be in the top 1% of like AI users. Like I promise
Yeah.
you. And it's not like you need like people think I think the perception is that if this is like getting a college degree or something, like where you're like, man, I need to just go back to school for a couple of years and then take all these classes and figure it. It's not like the entry point is low. It's like you can figure it out on your own. You can figure out on all everything you need to know by just asking it. Like you don't even have to have
Hmm.
a paid instructor, and it helps to have someone like take you from 0 to 1 or 1 to 10, because you'll have all these questions flood in. But like if you truly just spent the time and are curious, like you can get there. And so we tell people that obviously we do training and we have people pay for us to coach them and all this stuff, but it's because people don't like to change their behavior and they need
Yeah.
accountability. And that's what we offer.
So it's interesting, Josh, what you just said there, because when I got to Yellowknife the first night, I was at the bar having a bite to eat and sitting next to a couple of people that came here for the conference. And I got talking to a girl that was sitting next to me. And honestly, she was like a super user of AI. Like she was like ChatGPT. She was telling me how she used it, her whole thought process, to your point, asking the AI if how to do this, how to do that. I mean, it was like very impressive to listen to her, and I was like, man, this girl's like on top of it. Like, my immediate impression of being in Yellowknife is like, okay, these folks are using the tools, right? And then I was like, hey, let me just pause you for a second. Do you pay for Chat GPT? And she was like, no. And then I was like, okay, so like you've never used like a custom GPT, or you've never customized anything? And she was like, no. And I was like, wow. You know what I mean? And so to your point of like just a couple things to learn and understand puts you in that top echelon of people, of users, of super users. Like this girl understood, she had what you and I talk about, AI intuition, but she's only using like a small fraction of what the tool has available. So I told her, I'm like, okay, I promise you, just give me 15 minutes of your time while I'm here. I'm going to show you like 3 things that are going to change your life. So I'm going to hopefully today find her and just show her a few things. Because I was
Yeah.
like, because she's the kind of person, she's the local person. And I'm like, because for me, to get people in the community excited about AI, we need people like her who are local champions who can sort of bring the conversation forward, right? And sort of kind of, sort of help people, because obviously we can't be everywhere at once and help everyone at once as much as we'd like to, right? So, but to me, that was such an interesting situation. And I always ask when I do my keynotes, how many, we have the AI higher AI use hierarchy, and so I sort of always show that AI hierarchy in my
Mhm.
keynote, and I always start with questions. Okay, well, how many people only use a free AI tool? And like depends where you are. So I was, for example, in interior BC last week, and I would say 75% of the people raised their hand saying that they use a free AI tool. Here up north, I would say maybe 10% of people raised their hands. So it was a very stark difference. And then, in interior BC, I asked how many people pay for a tool. Definitely went down to, I would say maybe 15, 20% of people said they paid for a tool. Here it was like two, like two in like a crowd of probably 300 people. And then like, so it's just very interesting, right? And so, I mean, I
Mhm.
think honestly, and then I show the entire hierarchy, and then I have a box around just customizing paid tools. And then my box is, you know what, at the end of the day, if this is all you ever do, you're going to be in a great place. You're going to be able
Yeah.
to use these tools in an amazing way. You're going to get so much value out of these tools. And so, that's, I think, kind of aligns with what you're saying in terms of just, just getting to that place where all of a sudden you're getting the value out of the tools. You're going to be so much far further ahead than so
Yeah.
many other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I think, the axiom for like when we talk about AGI and we talk about, but so that's the future and that's like something that we don't have yet. But what do we have? Is like we have that drop in the bucket now. And
Yeah.
just with generative, like if you I don't know if you share the graphic that's like all the different rings of like neural networks and natural language processing, and there's just like like kind of like Russian nesting doll like visual that we sometimes show. It's normally past, like it's because it's a more technical focus, but like Gen AI, ChatGPT, Claude, like this relationship that we have as normal people with AI is like a fraction of the space. Like it's not machine learning, it's not
Yeah.
incredible. It's like it's predicting the next word. That's all it is. And just with that sliver of the industry and the technology, it's capable of doing things like we heard somebody, share in a workshop there's like yesterday that was sharing, about the grant writing. Hey, I found a grant that was due today, but grants normally take me a week to do. And I had no other choice because I wanted to try it. So I went to ChatGPT. I threw my context at it. I gave it my files, my business strategy, some like enough, the financial equation for the project that I was proposing, and a couple other documents, and gave it the criteria for what the evaluations were going to be on the proposals from the funder and their program brief. And I just asked it to help me prepare this really fast because I didn't have another choice, and it did it in 2 hours, and I got the thing submitted. And honestly, I feel really good about it because it wasn't a week of my time. Like that's what we're trying to help people when we say like, oh, productivity. It's like it's not just that this thing that maybe you would have spent a full working day of time, like say 8 to 10 hours on preparing over the course of a week. The over the course of the week part is one that's so hard for people to grasp. It's like, no, it got done today. Like because I
Yeah.
was able to get it done in one session, it's done and over the finish line, and it didn't take 5 days. Like
Yeah.
yes, you saved 4 times as much time, but like you got it done 5 times quicker. And
Yeah.
when we talk about productivity and energy, like that's the promise. And that was not a custom GPT. That was a free version of the platform. That was like, and it worked. Like, and that
Yeah.
was someone who's like a novice in the technology as a user. And so it's like, we hope people can hear us when we say like, the barrier of entry is not high. You don't need a certificate program. You don't need an 8-week LinkedIn course. Like it's workshops where you get in with someone who's done this before, and that's why we need champions. Like we need more people to have been there and share their experience and say, you know what, here's how I did it, because it's much more of an art than a science, which is why we talk about intuition versus like, tech skill or like it's not as concrete as
Yeah.
other spaces.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? You said a couple things there that sort of piqued my interest, and I talk about this not in my keynote presentation per se, but when I talk to people more one-on-one after. And like the promise of technology when the internet came out was very underwhelming. It was very, oh geez, there's the World Wide Web. It could do all these things for you, and then this is probably before your time, Josh, but then you would like go onto your your modem, and it that's connected to your phone, and you'd be waiting for a page to load for 10 minutes and it'd
I
be like, what
remember
the hell's
that.
going on?
I
Oh, you
remember
do?
that.
Okay. Okay.
Don't call me while I'm on the internet.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right. It's like it was not all that was promised. It was very hard to use computers back when the internet was coming out and computers were new, and like you had to basically you had to either you had to be a computer science person, or you had to like be self-taught, right, in a big way. This is a
Right.
very different technology, right? This is like, hey, just try this. Hey,
Hmm.
just give it, guess and like do some testing, just try a few different things and see how they work. Like, and there's no risk, and there's no really that much time even that goes into it. Like you're not sitting there for watching a web page load for 10 minutes. You can actually ask ChatGPT 10 questions and get amazing responses really quickly. So it's a very different experience, and we're so much further ahead as a society in general when it comes to just computing and technology and using tools. And even I mean, as much as this is a lower tech savvy type of place that I'm at, everybody has a smartphone in their pocket. Everybody's using apps, right? So it's not like there's not technology here, and it's not like
Mhm.
technology isn't embraced, right? And so I think that, again, it's just sometimes I even notice in some of the workshops we do, just giving people permission to try and then kind of
Yeah.
being there while they try, right? It's as simple as that.
Hmm. I think the permission piece is huge because some people won't they won't feel comfortable trying something new that they don't know how to do until someone says, it's okay to not be good at this. Like
Right.
it's okay to start from scratch. Like, and I know like that's obvious when I say that, but like that we literally heard that from multiple people that are like, I know I did the workshop with you, but that was like it seemed, I didn't have time to get into the tool after the fact, so I've just not opened it yet. And you're
Hmm.
like where that's how we think, but then they're like, it's weird to start doing something that I don't know how to do when I have all this other work that I should be working on. And so
Yeah.
that we hear the same story over and over again, and then sometimes we'll be like, yeah, I'm just too busy. I've got too much work to do to try this. And it's like, well, how much of that work is admin? And I'm like, oh, a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so like what if you learned a little bit, just 10 hours over the course of a month, and you were able to tackle more of your work and not be stressed out. That's the not be stressed out piece is the promise that I think we have today. Like that is where we're at
Hmm.
today. Like you got to write an angry email to our customer, like has a really angry email and you want to respond really graciously, but you're mad. Like you could spend a ton of energy and a lot of time on that response, or you could help yourself not deal with it and just find the words with ChatGPT, let it do the heavy lifting, and then make it sound more like you, but not pissed off you. Like
Totally.
that's like it's those little things that like it's so many different angles of relief. But yeah, it's starting from, just everybody has their own journey. That's also like the weird thing is it's not like your employer can just like sign you up for a workshop and then everybody levels up automatically. It's still your relation. It's like running. Like you could be the best runner in the world and then start coaching me, and if I don't run, my time doesn't improve. I don't get better. And I think people
Yeah.
are looking for the quick fix. Like when you mentioned the computer era and like internet, like what made the computer usable was people installing program packages into CDs, and then my user experience, instead of being a programmer as a kid to install a new computer game and start playing it, was put the CD in the machine and it opens the installer, and the installer was
Yeah.
like right groundbreaking because all I had to do was click the button install and then watch it be like and then however it used to be like 10 minutes later I could then start like that's and when we look at like where's AI technology and where's AI innovation, where are we at in the industry at, no one knows even what's the CD, like in terms of the analogy, like no, we don't know what the CD is yet, like what's the easiest way
Mhm.
for people to leverage. So that's being researched. OpenAI, Claude, and top of all Google, like Apple, they don't know the right way yet, which is why we're also like, hey, let's just utilize where we're at and what we can do because we know some things work well, like meeting assistants, like writing tools. But the CDs and like one click wonder isn't here yet. So it does
Mhm.
take some more effort in its current state to leverage. And
Yeah.
right now that looks
Yeah.
like being with ChatGPT.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, and yeah, again, it makes me reflect on kind of our role a lot. And as we're having this conversation, it's really obviously we're rolling out some broader training programs in partnership with a few associations, which I'm really excited about. Some research projects that we're going to be doing in partnerships with a few groups and some things. So we have a lot of really good things coming, but it certainly makes me think that we need to up our game when it comes to AI training, have a
Mhm.
whole suite of courses. So, Josh, I'm publicly challenging you right now to think about what are all the different courses we can create. We have our sort of our three flagship courses right now, but I think there's probably a few more sort of in the weeds type of courses on very specific types of things that we can sort of be rolling out. And honestly, I think I was actually talking to Christina, my business partner and wife, yesterday about this, and I was like, I think we could literally be doing AI training courses all day, every day. And you know what I mean? And probably have lots of participation, lots of interest and really make the difference, right? Like actually do the damage in the industry in terms of getting people sort of understanding the tools, using the tools, and preparing for it, quite frankly, because all of this to me, we started this conversation on sort of AGI and this sort of nebulous thing in the future, but we don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know when that's going to come. But the only way to make sure that we're ready for that future is to start basically understanding the tools today, start using the tools today, start leveraging what's available today, right? Start rethinking and reshaping our businesses or our careers in context of what's here today. That's the only way we're going to get ready for the future, right? I don't know
Right.
if you agree with that.
Totally. And I think it's simpler and less technical than folks think about how to get organized. Like we teach people how to create the 3 to 6 files that you could upload to any ChatGPT or any AI tool conversation so that it knows about you. Like if you have a personal brief that's like, here's me, Joshua, here's what I do at work, here's the things that I know about, here's my competency level in these areas, here's my preferences in terms of how you and I talk, that just sits in a file on my computer. And when I'm talking to, a new thread and I need to quickly get it up to speed, upload. That's it. Attach the document and that work was done. Like that's my CD for getting, a little bit closer to being, helped. And then the same thing goes for your organization. Like these are like very tangible. Like we have a file, the org brief. You don't even need to spend that much time building it because you could just go to an AI internet tool like Perplexity or ChatGPT search and have it create a brief of what does the internet know about your organization? What's the mission, vision, values? What services? What are your products? What's your value prop? Who do you serve? Like if all that's in one place, like right now, these are the easy ways to get off the ground and have these tools serving you better, like in a much more like specialized way. And it's like these are the things that go inside of custom GPTs. So it's also starting you on this journey of like once you learn how to help yourself create those tools by filling in context and giving specific instructions, you're gonna get so much value. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? So it's
Yeah.
like that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like if everybody in an organization just used a baseline chatbot tool with proficiency, the productivity is 20 to 60% boost across each role. So if you have a $1 million
Yeah.
payroll and have a 20% lift in productivity, you're looking at 200K plus 300, 400, 5, 6, depending on your like average productivity unlocked. That's
Yeah.
huge. And that's not
And
counting.
that and that and
Yeah,
that keeps going and going and going and going, right?
exponential. Yeah. Because the
Yeah.
first, that's where it's like we just hang on to like get to daily, get to daily, get to daily. If you just stop thinking Google search and start thinking perplexity, if you stop thinking, I'm gonna like write this long email or I'm gonna create this meeting agenda by myself, like those like 10, 15, 20 minute tasks could turn into like 1, 2, 3 minute tasks. And you're not losing quality by having AI unless you're truly not thinking. Like, because we always teach the human in the loop, like you still get what you want, but you don't just do it in one shot. Like, because
Yeah.
you would spend too much time on a prompt to get there. Yeah, it's just we just hope people hear like you can do this without knowing all the technical everything. If you're scared, I think that it'd be maybe good to share some of those stories that you hear from people who are just like, I'm not ready, or I'm scared about the future. What's going to happen? Because I think you always respond well to that. Can you
Yeah. Yeah.
share some of those
Yeah.
stories?
I mean, I hear those stories all the time, and I kind of my response is the same for everybody. It's like, well, first of all, fear of the unknown is not really a practical way to live your life, right? I mean, number one, and number two, it's better to at least have some level of knowledge and some level of understanding in order to prepare for the unknown, right? I mean, at the end of the day, and I when I do my keynote presentation, and I sort of, I talk about the fact that usually we see a revolution in the rearview mirror. Usually we see a revolution in the past. We're actually living a revolution right now, right in front of us. And so we all have this opportunity to embrace the revolution, whether and embrace is a big word, but like whether we fully embrace AI technology and we, think it's good or whatever, it's actually irrelevant, but just understand and be in the know and don't, I talk about the waves of general purpose technologies, and sort of, I always say it's time to get on that wave before the wave washes you away, right? And the
Mhm.
worst thing we can do is live in ignorance and pretend it's not here, because then all of the things we fear will absolutely come true. Right? So, it's just get in the know, learn a little bit about it, understand it, form your own personal opinion. I mean, obviously, from a corporate perspective, form a corporate opinion about it, right? Create policies, create perspective, right? These are all the things that we do in our AI adoption framework, because, like, my concern is just not enough people are even talking about this or even thinking about this. And, there's not enough conversations happening about it. So it's just like, start having conversations about it, whether you like it or not. It's here. And so that's kind of what I tell people in terms of, like, just embrace the fear, embrace the technology. And again, embrace doesn't mean buy in and go all in on it, but just understand it enough to at least understand what it is, and how it might impact you. And so I'm going to make 2 points, and then we're going to jump off because I think our internet isn't the best today. We're making this podcast happen, even though I'm definitely not in a place with the best internet. So point number one, I think, is just something I wanted to jump off of what you said there, Josh. Is number one is, for business owners, the concept of I don't have enough time or I don't have budget for this is really short-sighted. I think that, you know business owners especially, I think, really need to sort of embrace this, because your competitors are doing that in every single subsector, every single industry. Your competitors are embracing this, and if you don't, I hate to tell you, but they're gonna wipe you. They do some things really quickly that are gonna outcompete you, outperform you, and you're gonna get left behind. So number one, I think that you need to find time, you need to find budget, you need to make this a priority. And then I wanted to just sort of maybe end by bridging back to AGI, and in context specifically to a podcast that I was listening to yesterday and this morning, which is a great podcast. It's called Hard Fork. It's a couple of New York Times reporters, very funny. It's sort of a general tech podcast, but they talked to a guy named Miles Brungate, and he is a former OpenAI senior advisor on artificial general intelligence readiness. And so he left OpenAI. His job was to basically think through in really deep ways artificial general intelligence, what the company needs to do to get there. Really good interview, really valuable, worthwhile interview. But I want to leave you with just his three takeaways on preparing for the path to AGI, which I think align very much with what we're talking about here. Number one, and this is on a very personal level, try the tools and try to understand how they work. So I think you and I, Josh, have preached that enough. Number two, understand the potential impact on your career and how to future proof it. So, this is going to be disruptive to certain jobs, certain parts of the certain industries, certain careers more than others. So, spend some time thinking about what that might mean for you if these technologies can do parts of your job or whatever. So what parts of your job are you going to do? And I think the number three, I think this is a really good one, is understand the risks. So he talks about things like deep fakes, things like the scams that are out there that can be accelerated with AI technologies. Just understanding what the technology can do today and how bad actors might use it to try to, like, scam people. And sort of what, by understanding those things, you can have conversations with your family about being discerning about, there's just stuff that goes on, and it's AI or not AI. I don't know about you, Josh, but in Canada, I get spam calls 10 times a day on my cell phone. So I don't answer my phone anymore, unfortunately. It's ruined the telephone. But
Mhm.
these AI technologies and these bad actors can use these technologies to make things look and sound really real. And so understanding that, again, so it's just, I think that his 3 points really aligned with, I think, what you and I have been talking about, Josh, here, which is just understand the technology,
Mhm.
whether you like it or not. Just spend some time trying to understand it. So any closing thoughts, Josh, before we jump off?
Yeah, I think as it relates to understanding the technology, like I hope you also have the ability and like as you go to learn about these things to just not try to understand everything with it. Like
Yes.
understand how ChatGPT works. That's a good place to start. Understand how it searches the internet and what sort of way it brings information back and why is it important to cite the source. Like if you know that, and you understand, say, how AI models will hallucinate. Like, what is hallucinating? Why is it making up information? Is that because it's lying and it likes to lie, or is it because it's just guessing and trying to be helpful? And like understanding its limitations will help you understand how it can apply to your day to day. And I think that's That's the drive home message I would share. It's just like, how does this impact your day to day? Hopefully, things that took you 5 days to do before take you 2 hours. Hopefully, the stress that you would have invested into responding to something complicated is far lower than it was before. Hopefully, things that you couldn't quite figure out before because you just didn't know how to pull it all together is like simplified and you're now capable of because you got new capabilities. That's what we hope. And it just
Yeah.
takes a little bit of know-how. It just takes a little bit of walking with someone who's been there before and being curious yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. That's a great point. And I think you're right. This is a big, big industry and a big, big topic. And there's lots to understand. And, you and I spend all day, every day thinking about this. And I think you could probably agree with me. I only scratch the surface of understanding this
Yeah.
technology, right? And so, yeah, it's not about understanding all of it, but yeah, kind of understanding the basics and understanding kind of its impact on you. I think you'd
Mhm.
be in great shape if you just invested the time to do that. So let's leave it there, Josh. Thanks for your time. I appreciate the more philosophical conversation today, and look forward to next time.
Thanks for joining Peter and Josh on another episode of the Tourism AI podcast, where they dive into the AI tools they're building to help tourism operators and DMOs perform, as well as other relevant updates for the tourism industry. Stay up to date between episodes at tourismainetwork.com or on socials at Tourism AI Network.